No, I'm not going to talk to the press. I'm talking to the people. And I'm not that beautiful anyway. So we're waiting still for the bus from Chicago. Oh! Okay, we'll wait a minute longer. But meanwhile, that's not it. No more deportations. 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 No más deportations. No más deportaciones. 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 Defend DACA. 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 Okay, estamos en la lucha. We are in the struggle. We will not stand by and see our neighbors deported and see our young people with so much promise pushed out of this country because of the current administration. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I couldn't be more excited. But they knew you were coming. And so they brought out the entire police force. And when I first got here, they told me I couldn't put my signs out there, and if I didn't get in my car immediately, I was under arrest. Then you brought your friends. And then I called on my few hundred friends. So we're going to start, now that the bus is here, with a prayer, and I invite Reverend John Jackson from Trinity United Church of Christ, one of our most fervent fighters for freedom in the city of Gary.
Let us pray. God of justice, God of liberation, God of hope, God of the radical welcome, God who says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." The God who comforts the afflicted, those who are under fear of deportation, the afflicted, comfort. Those families who live in fear because of policies that oppress and break families apart, comfort. God, send your presence in this rally. Strengthen each of us in the struggle to stand on the side of a God who does not deport, but a God who brings together. To stand on the side of a God who does not build walls, but builds bridges for people to come together. We stand on the side of that God against policies and principles that would oppress people. So strengthen every person here, encourage every person here, give hope to each and every person here. And to that God, we give honor, glory, dominion, and power. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we're going to get started, and I wasn't given most people's names, so we'll do the best we can. But I'd like to invite Wanda Gordiles, who's the state president of LULAC, to come up and say a few words. Over here. And they want to be right here. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Wanda Gordillo, and I'm the Indiana LULAC State Director for the League of Latin American Citizens. I'm also the president of Council 5024. I was in Washington last week lobbying with the senators on behalf of DACA and our dreamers. Okay, yes, the renewal of the DACA students was over yesterday, but we still support our DACA students because they come from families and they have done a lot. We also support our dreamers, and we are pushing for the Real Dreamers Act. Okay, the Real Dreamers Act, because our families are, our students are studying, they're working, the families are working. Why, they're tearing our families apart here in Northwest Indiana and taking them off, And this is not fair. They are hardworking students, they are hardworking families, and yes, we are supporting them. We are supporting them in their schools, in their efforts of their work, and also in everything that they do in Northwest Indiana. They are good people. Thank you very much.
We are so happy today to have the broadest labor support we've ever had. And the SEIU Local 1 provided us with the bus, and the healthcare local brought the gang down. We have support of UAW 551. We have the Western region of UE. We are endorsed by USW Local 1010. Unite Here. We have Local 1 of Unite Here. This is wonderful because unions need to stand always with the brothers and sisters who are immigrants and who are workers. So I'd like to invite Ramel to come up and say a word from A. Philip Randolph Institute of Black Workers and Other Supporters.
Thank you. My name is Ramel Bryant. I am a executive board member of the APRI Northwest Indiana chapter, and we're just here today to support the injustices against these the immigrants and the deportations. We won't stand for it. We will continue to fight. And if you all need us, give us a call. We're here. We're here to support, and we're here.
Okay, I'd like to invite Reina. Oh, stop complaining. Reina from SEIU.
Okay, I'm here because I feel that deportations are very unjust. I feel that these people are here to work. They're not criminals. They are workers, and our union, our local HCII, has a lot of immigrants that are working, and we are here to support them. We don't want them to be deported. We don't want anybody to be deported from here. And I see that Gary, why does Gary have to be the one that has to deport everyone? We just can't stand these deportations, and we're here to support to stop the deportations.
Yes. Gracias. But our labor support extends beyond this area, so I'd like to invite Herbert Claros, who came all the way from Brazil. Heberto, ¿dónde está? Stand over there.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not speaking English very well, but I will try because.
No, it doesn't speak
do not speak Spanish. Yes, I will try in English because the international struggle don't have words, don't have borders. This is no border, don't have different language. But I'm so glad to hear with us. The immigrants, the struggles of the immigrants is very important. Not only United States, not only in South America, but unite the world. The problem with the immigrants in Europe, the north of Africa, the Syria is a big human crisis, but is a very shame for the United States. The form that the immigrant workers have a treatment here is a shame. I'm a Brazilian. I'm a metal worker in Brazil. I'm a member of a CSP com Lutas. The CSP com Lutas is a national trade union federation in Brazil. We represent public and private workers in Brazil. We have many problems in Brazil of immigrants because Brazil use the Bolivian and the Paraguay immigrants to work in factories of test factories, but is a slave conditions in Brazil. Is a shame for us in Brazil too, because the international struggle for the workers, the international struggle for best condition for the workers, the international struggle for the rights of the immigrants is the fight of the all workers around the world. Because this, I'm very proud. I'm here to us, and I think this struggle is possible. Defeat the government, not only Trump, but all governments around the world. Thank you so much.
Obrigada. We have a fabulous contingent here from Chicago Fight for 15. We would love them to start a chapter here. But I would like to invite Parrish and Teresa to come up.
Hello, how everybody doing? My name is Parrish Thomas. I'm a fast food worker at Popeyes from Chicago, Illinois. And we here today because we standing with the immigrants that's being deported. We know it's not fair. We come here and fight hard for our families to live and be free. And it's not fair that we have to be deported. So that's why I'm here today, standing up for all you guys that's fighting hard and don't want to be deported. Thank you.
Hola, mi nombre es Teresa Cervantes, soy trabajadora de McDonald's.
¿Se puede acercar al micrófono? Gracias. Déjame traducir. Ya olvidé.
Mi nombre es Teresa Cervantes.
My name is Teresa Cervantes.
Estamos aquí de la organización Lucha por 15. Estamos en solidaridad de todos los inmigrantes y migrantes, apoyando a los jóvenes de DACA, que todos tienen el derecho de tener un futuro.
I am here as part of Fight for 15 and to defend all of the immigrants and the DACA students.
Todos los jóvenes tenemos derecho de tener un futuro de todos los países. Todos aportamos a Estados Unidos, orientales o occidentales.
All young people have the right to a future, and we are here to defend that right.
No nos vamos a dar por vencidos. Tenemos que luchar por los jóvenes porque ese es el que dan a nuestro país, a nuestro futuro, a Estados Unidos.
And we're not going to give up this fight and back down, because we will stand with all the young people who are fighting for a future.
Como todos tenemos familias de diferentes razas, no vamos a soportar el racismo. Todos tenemos nuestros derechos y vamos a seguir luchando.
And we're not going to let them divide us by race, and we're going to stand with everybody against racism and discrimination, and we are in the fight for the long haul.
Hello, I'm L.E. I'm one of the organizers for Northwest Indiana Resistance. You've probably seen me on the Facebook pages or on the Twitters or the Instagrams or anything like that. And I do ask anyone who is using social media right now to please check into the event, Solidarity to End Deportations and Defend DACA. Most of you probably already seen it, but if you haven't, look it up and check in. Hashtag, do all your tweets and everything. Make your voices heard. Make sure everyone around the world hears that we will not stand for deportations out of any country, not just Gary. This is a global fight. But I would also like to give some special thanks to the people that did a lot of work today. All the nice signs that you see, Thomas Frank and Vince Emanuele, they worked really hard to put together the art build last Sunday to get everyone together. Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, yes. I don't know where she is, but she has done so much to and everything. We want to thank the unions, Calumet 350, Calumet Lives Matters, a lot of the people that are fighting environmental injustices in East Chicago. They turned out to help us here as well. Because racism comes in all forms, environmental, deportations, mass incarceration, the wage theft, sexism, it comes in all shapes and sizes, and we're all going to turn out today, as we are all going to turn out tomorrow to continue to fight all of these things. There'll be more thank yous at the end, so keep pushing. Yes.
Okay, we have somebody who is here to talk to us about a struggle.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Carmen Mata.
My name is Carmen Mata.
Yo vengo de San Quintín.
¿De dónde?
San Quintín.
San Quintín.
Baja California. San Quintín, Baja California.
Baja California.
De los trabajadores de la fresa.
Strawberry workers.
Sí.
Yes.
Y yo estoy aquí en apoyo con ustedes, hermanos. Son mis hermanos que los quiero. Y también estoy en contra de que este gobierno está deportando a muchas personas. Cada viernes sabemos que deportan a muchos niños y a muchos adultos y están siendo separados de su familia. Y para mí eso es una injusticia.
I can't possibly do that. I am here in support of all of the young people who are fighting for their rights to remain here, and also as a strawberry worker, fighting to have safer workplaces and better conditions and to prevent the poisoning of your food.
Estoy aquí porque yo estoy con ustedes.
I am here because I am with you all.
Ustedes tienen una lucha.
You all have a fight.
Nosotros también tenemos una lucha en contra de Driscoll.
We also have a very big struggle against Driscoll that is a strawberry producer.
Yo no quiero que haya más familias deportadas.
I don't want to see more families deported.
Yo no quiero que haya más niños y personas sufriendo.
I don't want to see more children and people suffering.
Por estas deportaciones.
Because of these deportations.
Yo no quiero que haya más dolor en las madres.
I don't want to hear and feel the pain of the mothers.
Tampoco quiero que haya dolor en los niños. No quiero que haya dolor en los niños.
And I don't want the young kids to have pain in their hearts.
Que son separados de sus padres.
Because they're separated from their parents.
Queremos que DACA se respete.
We want respect. For DACA.
¿Por qué? Porque muchos tienen el derecho de seguir estudiando.
Because they have the right to continue studying.
Y prepararse.
And prepare themselves.
Porque los jóvenes
because the young people
son el futuro.
are the future
de la nueva generación.
of the next generation.
Y las personas mayores
And the older people
son la enseñanza,
are instructors, educators in this.
son la sabiduría
They have the wisdom
que nosotros tenemos, por ejemplo.
that we need.
Por eso hoy yo digo
That's why today I say
que se respete DACA.
that you respect DACA.
Y digo boicot a Driscoll.
And especially boycott Driscoll.
Que está lastimando
Boycott
Driscoll.
Boycott Driscoll.
Boycott Driscoll.
Boycott Driscoll. Boycott Driscoll. Of racism. I think you understand that Gary is a majority black city. It is a city that has been colonized by Chicago. This airport does deportations because in the contract with Mayor Daley, it says that we can only do what Midway and O'Hare don't want to do. And so we do the deportations. We get no jobs out of that. We get nothing but heartache and pain. And so we want to say that the struggle of all the people here in Gary for jobs, for decent living, for respect and recognition is part of the struggle of immigrants for the same thing. So I want to invite up another speaker who is in fact a DACA recipient.
Hi everyone, my name is Sara Galvan Orozco. I'm here with El Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. I'm here because I refuse to apologize for being an immigrant. I feel like we all need to, we should never apologize for being here and for having our parents bring us here for a better opportunity, because for me, I didn't have a choice, but I do have a choice to stay and make a future out of my education. And I just want to thank everyone that's here for supporting us and supporting all the rights that need the support. And thank you very much.
There are so many organizations supporting this, which is wonderful. Get to see the buses, and they will come painted white with white over the windows so people cannot see out or in. It is revolting.
Matt and Joanne for their hard work with the Interfaith Committee for Detained Immigrants. Thank you.
I now invite Deborah from ATU 308.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Lane. I'm the organizer for ATU Local 308, Rail Transportation. I see Eric Slater from 241. We are so happy to come out and join this beautiful picture of what America needs to look like. All of us standing together as one, fighting for justice for all. All of us in a melting pot of immigration. If they want to know what immigrants look like, we are all immigrants.
Exactly.
We have to stand together because what they're doing with this DACA and deportation is a setback to modern day slavery. And it angers me because it reminds me of what they did to the foreparents that came from Africa. They brought them over on slave ships with no windows, and they took them away and broke up families. This America is founded on families. Family is full of love and united. And without families, we can't prosper. So what they're doing, bringing them here on buses with windows closed and taking them away, they're breaking families. So we all must stand together and continue to fight. All of these rallies, all of these resistance shows the pure American way of we won't take the wrongness that these politicians, these big bankers are doing to us, even on our jobs. We must continue to fight. We must continue to stand. We must continue to unite with DACA. What's wrong with wanting to improve your life?
Exactly.
What's wrong with it? Nothing. And we have to stand together as one in love and unity, and we must fight back. Thank you all for coming, and remember, God loves you and ain't nothing you can do about it.
It is overwhelming to see the support that we have because, you know, Gary is on the periphery of nothing. We are an abandoned city. We have 40% unemployment among black youth, and all of the development is going into gentrification. They're making little pockets of wealth, and they are forgetting the people who live here. We have a sister who came all the way from California, and she is from the Sacramento chapter of LACLA.
Hey. I want to say it's an absolute honor to be before my brothers and sisters here in Chicago. And I want to say that when I was a little girl, when my parents were on the Great Boycott for the United Farm Workers Union, we lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I feel like I'm really at home back east. All right, I walked a lot of picket lines back east. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chicago. We traveled across this country on the Great Boycott. And right now, I'm back in Chicago. My name's Desiree Rojas. I'm the president of Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, Sacramento chapter. We're a Latino, Chicano, Native, all peoples, all workers coalition chapter. We represent everybody. We represent those who are disadvantaged from community, workers, unions, and also the current issue with immigration. We're also working on DACA in California too. But I want to say that right now, the importance of paying attention to what's happening in agriculture is very important, especially out of California and those states that are producing a lot of product. We are on a Driscoll boycott because people are being enslaved. Make no mistake about it. Children, look at this flyer. Children at the age of babies are sleeping in reservoirs while their parents pick these berries. No water, being sprayed over on their bodies with chemicals. We have people living in makeshift cardboard box housing with sticks holding them up. We have people who are working. They're being pulled into trucks. In the back of those trucks are families, children, and they are being sent out to fields to work 14-hour days, and then when they're sent back in, they get a small wage for one daily meal. That is slavery at its worst, and we're talking about 80,000 workers. We need you to support the Driscoll boycott. We are all here and standing in unity for our brothers and sisters and DACAs, like my sisters and brothers who have said before me, that it's not their fault that children were forced to migrate here through the NAFTA agreement. The NAFTA agreement has caused poverty. It has hurt workers in the United States and in Mexico. It's enslaved people. We need to take our unions back. We need to make our unions stronger. We need to send a message to Washington that we're not messing around, that the people and the workers have the power. And we are not going to stop fighting, resist, be a part of this boycott. Right now in California, they're pushing another boycott. They're using fracking water to feed the trees of halo oranges. And you know that pomegranate juice that everyone likes so much? I love that juice. I'm not buying that juice no more. They're using contaminated fracking oil water to feed those trees. And that's poison. That's feeding our kids poison. Are we going to let that happen? No. Hell no. Are we going to let that happen? No. We are going to take back our power from these corporations, the global corporate machine that is stealing food and clean water from people and citizens all over the world. Trust me, what is happening here is happening all over the world. I just came back from Europe and I found out that in Europe, a lot of the water, bottled water there, is coming straight out of the groundwater of California. And there are towns in California that are out of water. There's no more groundwater. They are shipping water by big canisters and plastic bottles to homes and communities in California. And we have to say no. We need to protect our land, protect our water, protect workers, protect farm workers, protect DACA, protect our unions. I want to hear you say, "Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! Aquí estamos y no nos vamos!" Aquí estamos y no nos vamos! Thank you.
There's nothing like a strong labor voice to get us going. I want to read a statement from our state senator, Eddie Melton. He hoped to be here. He got called down to Indianapolis. Eddie is a new state senator from Gary, and he has been fighting for health care. He's been fighting for jobs. He's been fighting the contamination in East Chicago. And I might mention, if you want to know more about East Chicago, our wonderful friend here, Thomas Frank, will be doing a toxic tour leaving from Chicago on November 4th, and we'll get you more information on it. It will be free. Here is Eddie's statement. First, I would like to apologize for not being able to make it to this event today, but rest assured I am with you in mind and spirit when it comes to this particular fight for inclusion and civil rights. My colleagues and I in the Senate Democratic Caucus are in Indianapolis forming our legislative priorities for 2018, and I guarantee you that immigration issues, the DACA program, and Dreamers will be in the discussion for our agenda next year. Ever since the Indiana State Democrats formulated the Latino Roundtable working group of legislators, policy experts, community and faith leaders, we have been in this fight, which has never been more important. Immigration has long been a complex topic in a country that was originally founded on freedom and diversity. I gotta just interrupt. It was founded on slavery. And we can't forget that the original people in this country are not us white-looking Europeans. We came as settlers. African Americans came as slaves. Native Americans have been pushed off their land, and our history just needs to be taken into account. We cannot pretend that this country was founded on justice. Sorry, Eddie. Okay.
Can you see the bus? The bus isn't here yet,
Okay.
but when it comes, it'll be able to see us from the corner.
Okay, the buses are not here yet, but we might be able to get a view of them from the corner, and we'll let you know the plane has landed. It's a World Atlantic plane that disguises itself as Caribbean Sun, and they have a contract with ICE, and the contract is through the Jet Center, and so it's very likely our next protest will be at the Jet Center. Okay, let me finish this off. We are, sorry Eddie that I interrupted you. We are a melting pot, and we are at our strongest when we come together, not when we enact policies that divide us. Indiana is only one of 3 states that has a law specifically prohibiting students from receiving in-state tuition rates. We know the kind of contributions that these young, smart, and courageous students can provide to our universities and to our state's economy. We must stand up for them, and if we don't, we will be the losers. Keep fighting the good fight. I promise I will as well, and let's be a voice for the people that this administration seeks to silence. I have here, can't keep my papers apart, Reverend Timothy Whitesky from Trinity Lutheran of Valparaiso.
I'm pastor of Trinity Lutheran Church in Valparaiso, Indiana. I'm here because this story of what's going on here today is a story that resonates with several that are very dear to me. One of them in particular, it's at the very beginning of the Gospel of Matthew, when a young boy is born in abject poverty and the king feels that he is a threat to him. And an angel warns his father, "You'd better get out of here." And that young boy's father, Joseph, packs up his son Jesus and his wife Mary, and they run away to Egypt. And I cannot help but wonder what would happen if when they had gotten to Egypt, the Egyptian immigration authorities came by and said, "Sorry, you have to go back to Herod's death squads." Our story as Christians is a story of a God who becomes an immigrant. That's the very first thing God does, is get born and run away because it is not safe where he is. God is an immigrant, and what's more, God's people have been immigrants throughout the story. Jesus' father has the same name as very famous immigrant Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, and he doesn't leech off the system. He becomes prime minister of Egypt. And when his family comes begging for food, he doesn't say, "Sorry, Egypt's full, there's no food." He says, "Get Dad down here with you," for crying out loud. As Christians, we know God is with the weakest and the most vulnerable, and immigrants are vulnerable. Our society makes sure they're vulnerable, and we Christians are going to stand with them. We know that we have been immigrants in the past and may wind up being immigrants in our own lifetimes. And so we are here in solidarity with those who find themselves there today. The churches are divided on this issue, I know. I can't speak for every single Christian. I do think I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. If you believe in God, if you believe that God became human and was born in a stable in Bethlehem, you are with the immigrants, or you don't actually believe what you say you believe. That is why I am here. It is wonderful to see everybody who is here today. Thank you.
There is this weekend more than this protest. There is a conference for national labor solidarity being held at UAW Local 551. And the reason we have so much good support from labor, especially on the West Coast, is because of this conference. So I invite the Vice President of Local UAW 551 to say a few words.
Thank you, everyone. I want to formally invite each and every one of you to come to our conference Our Union Hall is located on Torrance Avenue on the south side of Chicago, 13550 South Torrance Avenue. The conference is going to be going on for 3 days. And during those 3 days, we're going to be coming up with ways to come together and join together in solidarity across unions, across non-union workers, across borders. Because this attack is not just an attack on immigrants. It's an attack on the working class. It's an attack on all of us. It's a corporate attack. These trade agreements like NAFTA that have ruined the lives of so many workers across all the borders is a trade agreement that is for corporations and against workers. It opens the borders for corporations to go wherever they want to seek whatever profits they can extract from us at the cost of our humanity. They want us to be nationalistic. They want us to salute the flag, and at the same time, they want to repress all of us. They want to extract the profits out of our labor. But we have the power in our hands to withhold that labor. And that's something that we need to learn and that we need to relearn, because the labor movement has been on the decline. But we have in front of us over here the Fight for 15 that's at the forefront of the labor movement. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for reawakening the labor movement. And the immigrant workers that are here from Driscoll's that have been suffering in the fields. Okay, I'm told the buses are on their way. They're coming in now. So thank you very much, and come to our conference.
Go see if you can get a look, and then we will meet back here to conclude. That way.
So you have, I'd say, a couple hundred people in this parking lot here, right outside the Gary, Indiana, Chicago airport. They are here to protest the deportations. They're all going over right now to try and get a glimpse. Buses. These buses are going to have white paint over the windows, so you literally can't see in. To see the undocumented immigrants that are on those buses. They are going to fly those undocumented immigrants to Brownsville, Texas, and then from Brownsville, Texas, I don't know if it's a bus or a plane, send them to Mexico. If you see that sign over here, it says, "Stand in solidarity for the 19,501. That's 19,501 that have been deported from Gary, Chicago airport. That's as of April. I spoke with somebody here who said that they have put in freedom of information requests with the Trump administration, but they don't even acknowledge their requests. So that number, again, 19,501 that have been deported from here is from April. Who knows how many more have been deported since then? I mean, you see the signs since then, since this is since April. You see no mass deportation sign, signs NWI resist, that's Northwest Indiana. Let's walk over. You see Latinos here, African Americans, white people, older people, younger people. It's really interesting to see this because I've covered a lot of these in New York, but it's kind of interesting to see it in right in the Midwest, very Rust Belt, working class type area, Gary, Indiana. And like one person said, forgotten city, like so many of these cities in the Midwest. I think they said 40% poverty among African American males, teenagers, which is pretty disturbing. As you can see, they're lining up here to try to get some glimpse of this bus of undocumented immigrants, and the immigrants, like one person said, called it revolting because you have white paint over the windows, so you really can't see in. Almost like they're trying to cover up what they're doing, in a way. So Ty's trying to get close to get you a shot here, and let's try to get a little bit closer here. And you see cameras everywhere. You see protest signs. Alto las deportaciones. And they're chanting, "No more deportations, no more deportations." And I'd say there's a couple hundred people out here, so it's a good showing on a Friday morning here. Defend DACA signs, NWI resist.
Not one more! Not one more! Not one more! Not one more!
Where is it?
It's right by the plane. It's just rolled over.
Yeah, so in my viewpoint, you see an airplane, and the bus of undocumented immigrants is next to that airplane. Like I said, they're going to fly them to Brownsville, Texas, and then to Mexico.
Stand up, fight back! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! What do we do? 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 What do we do?
Stand up, you say fight back. Stand up! Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up! Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up! Fight back! All the walls have got to go! From side to ¡El pueblo! ¡Jamás será vencido! ¡El pueblo! ¡Jamás será escuchado! ¡El pueblo callado! ¡Jamás será escuchado! What you are seeing there is the World Atlantic plane. The bus will now load people either through the back of the plane or the side of the plane. When they get out of the bus, they will be shackled hand and foot. These people who have committed no violent crimes, none, not one, the worst crime, shoplifting. Because Sister Joanne, who will be here momentarily, has talked to every single immigrant on those buses. Here because they want to be with their family.
So people are talking behind me. They're explaining, the protest. The undocumented immigrants did not commit violent crimes. They will take them off the bus, shackled by their arms and legs, and put them on that plane.
Where it will pick up more neighbors and take them to the border in Brownsville and basically shove them over.
She's saying that they will take the undocumented immigrants to the border in Brownsville, Texas, the border in Brownsville, Texas, and then, according to her, shove them over into Mexico. And now they're chanting, "Not one more, not one more."
We're fired up! Can you dig it?
While they figure out some tech issues, let's go around. You see a big sign there: no ban, no wall, no hate, no fear. The resistance is here. You see defend DACA. What's that?
I thought they was putting the truck in the way.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk to some people here. How you doing, man?
Hey.
You're with TYT.
You're with 551.
Oh, cool.
We're live on Facebook.
Oh, you are? Okay, I'll let you go.
No, good. I'm going to turn it on right now.
Okay. So obviously this is a good showing here at the airport. What are your thoughts? As of that sign over there, we know 19,000 have been deported from here as of April. So
one too many. There should have been nobody deported. There's one too many. You know, there were stories about a woman. Okay, she's undocumented. And she, living the American dream. Okay, she has small children. What she had to do, she had to work anytime they called her, right? Work anytime they called her because they're paying her under the table. What she had to do was go to work at midnight. And just like you and I, if we go to work, we hope to come back the next morning. Well, guess what? She didn't come home the next morning to her children, and her children had no idea of what happened to her. They didn't know if she was dead or alive. And come to find out, weeks later, she was deported without any other information given to anybody in her family. Now, her children, of course, are legal citizens, and a lot of her family are legal citizens and so forth. And it's unjust. It's unjust, and it's inhumane to not notify, even if you're being deported, not notify your loved ones. Right. And it's just one too many. And I wanted to say, this is a great protest. I understand that the NFL has their own protests and so forth, and they're doing it on company time. That's what they're trying to say to them. Well, if they really want to protest, come out here with us and protest. That's something I want to put out there to the NFLPA. They're a part of the AFL-CIO just like us. Just because they're in a different tax bracket, they can still come out here.
And other people before were talking about not only are they treating the undocumented immigrants inhumanely, deporting them, but these strawberry workers and these workers in the fields that are being almost like treated like slaves. You don't hear a lot about that in the media, but the way they're treating these undocumented immigrants.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are people that are working just like slaves, like you said, working just like slaves. If they have no rights, they don't know the rights that they do have as undocumented immigrants and so forth. They do have rights, okay? And what happens is if they don't come into work, they're fired. If they get hurt, they're fired. If their employer doesn't like the way they look that day, they're gone. We're gonna call ICE on you. That's what's gonna happen. If they speak out or anything like that, it's done. It's over with. They're treating these people just like slaves. They said that slavery was over with. 400 years and everything like that. Slavery was over with, but we still have slavery today. Not only laborers, we have sex trafficking and everything like that. There's slavery right now in this country. It's not gone. Just like racism in this country, it's not gone. It's just underground now. That's all it is.
What's your name?
Tony Puente from Local 551, UAW.
Spell your last name?
Puente.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So they're saying... So they're still chanting, stand up, fight back, stand up, fight back.
Sí se puede, 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 sí se puede. When people are occupied, resistance is justified. 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 When people are occupied, resistance.
So the plane is still over there, the plane that they're going to put the undocumented immigrants on. Let's see what's going on. And Presumably they're still loading the undocumented immigrants on that bus. There's people, one gentleman yelling towards the plane. You hear people, resistance is justified. Can I talk to you for a second, sir? So it's a great crowd out here, and I've seen protests in New York and other places. It's nice to see it right here in the Midwest. Talk to me about kind of the injustice from Gary and all these other areas. Seems like it's not just an attack on undocumented immigrants, but overall an attack on working and poor people.
Yes, it is. It's an attack on the poor people and the working people, because we got to stand together. If certain people are taken out or demonized, then it's just more people that's not joined to the fight. We have to all stand together. If one person is picked on, we all got to fight. That's just how it is. It's a lot of us that's down and out, and we have to stand together, period.
And in this area, there's a very, very large unemployment among young African-American youth. Has there been any investment here in the years, or is it mostly gentrification and trying to push poor people out?
Yes, it's mostly gentrification. Most of the factories are pretty much not hiring people. All the older workers may be there, but other than that, it's just no new jobs out here for the youth or the middle class. Should I say? It's just a downfall city, kind of like Detroit, I should say.
And people have talked about earlier that this is almost like modern-day slavery. A lot of these undocumented immigrants work on like strawberry fields and these kinds of jobs where their kids are sleeping in reservoirs and just really disgusting, vile treatment.
Yes, they treat them inhumane. They should be treated way better than that. And their wages are very low. Minimum wage in some places, they don't even get half of that most of the time, or even near it. So that's really bad. No one should be paid that low of a wage for working so hard. And the hours is like 14 hours a day. That's just not right. It's not fair.
What's your name?
Javante Davis.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So you hear it. It's not just an attack on undocumented immigrants, but the people in this community here have been attacked basically because they're poor. They're poor, working people, two jobs, 3 jobs. We see this in Flint, in Detroit, in Milwaukee, in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh. I mean, you name it. It's an attack on poor people. So let's head around.
All the walls have got to go. From Palestine to Mexico. All the walls have got to go.
Okay, they have done everything humanly possible so that we can't even see what's happening. But like I said before, if you go on Facebook and it's open, my Facebook page has photos of the buses, of all the transport, and also Northwest Indiana Resistance. And keep your eye on Northwest Indiana Resistance, because in 2 weeks we will be gathering to strategize now what. And so we will invite everybody to join us. We have just a couple more people who wanted to say a word. Is Barbara anywhere nearby? Barbara?
Now they're chanting over there. The whole world is watching.
Everyone. My name is Barbara Suarez Galeano, and I'm here. I'm an organizer with Detention Watch Network. Detention Watch Network is a national network of organizations fighting for accountability, transparency, and a defunding of ICE and CBP, and like on the road, to end all detentions and stop all deportations. I just want to highlight the fact that the immigrant detention system in the United States is the most privatized, what that means clearly is that people are profiting from the suffering and the pain of our communities. Absolutely, and this is definitely tied to criminalization, right? It's not a coincidence that most of the bodies that sit in cages in the United States are black and brown bodies. And regardless, I just want to emphasize that regardless of our criminal record, eligibility to DACA or not, we have the right to migrate and we have the right to thrive. And that's something that I think is important pointing out. Just wanted to highlight the fact that this year alone, 12 folks have died in detention. This has been the deadliest year for detainees in the immigration system in the United States, immigration detention system. And it's important that now more than ever, we pressure the institutions and we pressure legislators to defund ICE and CBP. They have the right to do, they have the ability to do this. If they're gonna call themselves champions for the immigrant community, then they can't just say it and not do anything about it. They have to back it up with their power in Congress, right? So I just wanna invite everyone, if you wanna learn more about this work, you could contact me, you could contact Gabby, who's my coworker, and yeah, defund hate, end to deportations and detention.
We can't take it no more.
You know, one of the biggest
and ugliest. We can't take it no more. Can't take it no more.
All right. I don't have a voice. One of the biggest and ugliest private prison companies, GEO, tried 3 times, not once, not twice, 3 times to build a private immigrant prison here. They were defeated once in Hobart. We defeated them right here in Gary. They wanted to build it right across the street. They came back a second time and we crushed them.
All right.
And if they show their face again, we will crush them. No private prisons. No privatization and criminalization of anybody.
Right. Not one more.
That's the fascism.
Yes,
not one
absolutely.
more.
Not one more.
Hey.
Our brother Scott just wants to repeat his invitation and directions. This is a conference not just for workers in unions, it's for worker centers, it's for the unemployed, it's for all of us, and it's building a national solidarity network, which we need desperately.
I'd like to say, first of all, that it's a sad day for the folks over there that are boarding that plane. Our thoughts are with them and their families, and we hope them a safe return because they have a right to be here. They have a human right to be here. We're here to protect human rights. We're here as part of the working class, and all of us need to join together in the working class if we're going to defeat the powers that are trying to keep us down. That's why we're having a conference at our union hall. Thank you. The conference is going on the next 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. It starts about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's a $25 fee, but all the meals are provided, so you get your money's worth back on the meals. So come on out, join us as part of the working class. Everybody here is part of the working class, and we need to join together and build these coalitions so that we can fight back. Thank you.
The
address, 13550 South Torrance Avenue, right down the street from the Ford plant in Hegewisch.
You can just take Gosselin right across. It turns into Brainerd. It takes you to Torrance. Go south and you'll hit it right there. It's very close by.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. My name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm a member of the CWA Pacific Media Workers Guild in San Francisco. I'm a human rights chair. And what we see here is sickening, really. Yes. It's a sick day in America when the people who built this country are blamed for the crisis.
That's right. That's right.
Who built the United States? It was working people, it was immigrants. And yet this government and the politicians are blaming the immigrants for the problems in this country? What kind of country is this? What we say is, who is responsible for this? And it's not these working people who were forced to come to Mexico by NAFTA, by these corporate reactionary trade agreements. They were driven out of their homes. They privatized the electrical company. They privatized the railroads. They privatized the land and drove off the indigenous people off their land. And then they make them slaves in Baja California. And they drive them to the United States, and they get here to work. They came here to work in this country, and then they're said that they're told they're being criminals. They're criminals. The real criminals are the people running this government. That's who the real criminals are. They are crooks. They're stealing from us. These bankers in his administration kicked people out of their homes. They stole their homes. Yes. Millions of people lost their homes in this country. Have they gone to jail? Have they faced accountability? No. Instead, they say immigrants are taking our jobs. Well, we say, and I say, and others, it's time to cancel NAFTA. It's time to cancel NAFTA. Yes. We need to cancel NAFTA and not make it better. We need solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Mexico and Canada. We need internationalism, and that's why we're having this conference. We want to unite all union people, all working people, to unite together. We need millions of working people out in the streets to say, stop this ICE, stop the attacks on working people, full employment for all working people. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
I need to give a special thank you to some folks who really helped out. Susan Hurley and Jobs with Justice in Chicago. I can't thank you enough. Also, we had a great art build last Sunday, which is why we have so many good signs. And Vince Emanuel, who was in charge of getting that going with Thomas Frank, and I want him to say a few words.
It's a pleasure to be out here today. You know, I'm seeing a lot of old faces. Susan Hurley and I met about 11 years ago during the anti-war movement under George Bush when we were working with Iraq Veterans Against the War. You know, some of the first trainings I received as an organizer was from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. Who's aware of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers here? Those are some of the bravest and best organizers I've ever spent my time around. Those are people who reminded us when we were feeling down and out, beat down, tired, stressed out, their workers were being locked in the back of semi-trailers before they had to go out for another day of 12 to 14 hours of work. Those people are the folks who give me inspiration and motivation when I'm feeling down, when I feel like it's too much, when I feel like I'm losing hope or feeling disempowered. Those people remind me that the struggle continues and that we must always struggle as a community. And you know, we wanted to make an announcement about a welcoming city ordinance that Ruth led the way here and Gary getting passed. Alfredo Estrada, an attorney from Lake County, has head up these efforts throughout the region. In Indiana, for those who aren't aware, sanctuary cities are illegal. The best we could do in this state is the ordinance that was crafted by Alfredo Estrada and his team. It's called a Welcoming City Ordinance. We're trying to get them passed throughout Northwest Indiana. Right now, where I live in Michigan City, Indiana, the Michigan City Social Justice Group and Politics, Art, Roots, and Culture are organizing and fighting for this effort. We're having an event this Saturday, October 14th, so next Saturday, at our venue in Michigan City. That's 1713 Franklin Street. Alfredo Estrada is going to be there. He's going to explain the ordinance to our community members and our elected officials, and we're going to expect them to pass it within the next month. Now, let me say something. There's a lot of folks I've been talking to since Trump got elected. They're scared to go out. They're scared to knock on doors. They're worried that their neighbors don't care. They're worried that their family members are going to be mean to them or whatever they're worried about. But let me tell you, we knocked on well over 1,000 doors over the last week and a half in Michigan City, Indiana. And the overwhelming number of people in Michigan City, Indiana, black, white, brown, and otherwise, support the ordinance, and they want to stand in solidarity with their neighbors. So let's stop being afraid of each other. Let's stop assuming that people just don't give a shit or that they're too scared to come out. They like to see people who are organizing. Organizing breeds more organizing. So let's get rid of the cynicism, and let's remember, as Ruth said, that we will win. I also want to turn folks on to an event that's taking place on Friday and Thursday in Chicago next week. That's the Poor People's Campaign. Who here is aware of the Poor People's Campaign? Are there people here who are going to attend that event? Right on. So I will see you next week as well. Go to the website, poorpeoplescampaign.com, and you will find all of the information for the upcoming events. It's been a pleasure to work with everyone here, and I would just like to say that I, for one, am actually for deportations, but I want to deport the bosses, the bankers, the CEOs, So, thanks to everyone who came out, Carl from EU, Susan Hurley, Ruth, Lori, all the folks who put this on. It's a pleasure to work with y'all.
Sister Joanne has arrived. Sister Joanne Persh has been meeting with the immigrants on the buses for 10 years. She prays with them, she interviews them, and she has not found a single violent criminal. These are all people here to stay with their families. I don't see her, but I was told she was here. Okay. So let me remind you that if you go on Facebook to Northwest Indiana NWI Resistance, you will see photos, you will see information on an upcoming organizing meeting, and you will stay in touch. And if you have photos, we invite you to post them there and share them. No?
Let's give it up for Ruth.
No más deportaciones. 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 El pueblo será vencido.
That's Graciela SCIU Local 1. Who? Behind you. That's Graciela. Sorry.
We have, thank heavens, I was waiting.
No, I'm not the one.
SCIU Local 1
SCIU
and mobilized people and really provided an enormous amount of support. Graciela.
Yes. Thank you guys for coming out here. I just want to quickly ask you guys to join me in calling Congress. I'll give you guys a number if you guys want to get your phone ready to dial this number to demand that they take action to support immigrant communities by passing a bipartisan Clean Dream Act now and enacting legislation to protect current TPS holders from being deported. So if you guys can take out your phones and just make this call for Congress and ask them to support us, the number is 1-888-204-8353. Once again, that phone number is 888-204-8353. Thank you.
Okay. You don't see her? Pastor Striedelmeyer? Actually, it's the dog, Longfellow, that I'm inviting up here.
The dogs don't like deportations either.
Hey, hey!
We're going to end the way we began, with a word of prayer. Great God, every human being bears the dignity of your image. The full range of our diversity is what is required to express the fullness of your love. Give us the anger we need to join the fight. Give us the love we need to sustain the fight. The love that washes mountains to the sea and breaks rocks, and that makes us as strong as your will. We pray for those poor people on the plane now who are having one of their worst days. Let them take heart. Walk with them as you always do. Bring them to safe places. And we pray, bring them back here too, if that is their wish.
Yes.
Now send us on our way, knowing that we have not just completed, but that we are beginning again. And help us not to build walls around ourselves, but to reach out to those who need to be persuaded or won over. And it is in your name we pray.
Jesus' name. Amen.
We pray. Amen.
We're going to take it out on a song that was born in slavery. I first heard it in civil rights, and we updated it in work.
So, as you hear, a lot of people spoke. You have union leaders, religious leaders, Latina leaders, African-American leaders that all work to get a pretty damn good crowd out here for a Friday morning. Pretty rainy and disgusting, which I think is a good symbol for what's going on here. Since April of this year, there's been over 19,000 people deported from this airport in Gary, Indiana. From what somebody was saying, essentially Chicago and Indiana, Illinois and Indiana have some type of contract that Indiana will, these undocumented immigrants will be deported out of this airport in Gary. Gary is probably one of the most impoverished cities in all of the Midwest, along with Flint and Detroit and other cities with predominantly African-American communities. It's been a very nice crowd out here. A lot of them gathered in the middle of it to actually try to get a glimpse of the airplane and the bus that was carrying, is going to carry, I don't know the number, but presumably a bunch of undocumented immigrants. They're going to fly them down to Brownsville, Texas, which is the border from America into Mexico. And as one person says, just push them over into Mexico. So not a happy event out here, but it's good to see a lot of people gathering. Let's try to talk to one more person. I'm looking for Wanda. People are very slippery here. You see them. A tiny woman that I used to interview in East Chicago. That's all right. They're singing over here. There's some familiar faces because a lot of the people that have been demonstrating and activists in East Chicago having to do with that lead crisis are out here supporting the undocumented immigrants. So, what are your thoughts out here?
I think it's sad. I think the lady that spoke earlier brought up a good correlation between slavery, bringing slaves here from Africa, separating them from their families, and how we're taking people and bringing them to Mexico, separating them from their families. And that really resonated with me because I'm like, wow, that is exactly correct. They don't know anything but America. They've been here for 30, 40 years. Mexico is not their home. This is all they know, and we're snatching them from their home and their families and taking them to a strange land. And it's sad. It breaks my heart, especially seeing it happen, seeing that bus come, seeing those buses with the windows painted in white so you can't see in or out, and parallel to slave ships where they put you at the bottom and you can't see in or out. And they have them shackled from head to toe. I don't know.
Makes it more real seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Like I said, they presumably have this here, some form of protest every time they have undocumented immigrants being deported. But we chose, I guess, a better day to come. Lots of people here. And you see a lot of kind of coordination between local unions, local churches, and activist groups. So that's good. One of the people who spoke was an organizer. So it's good to see a more coordinated effort. Let me try to talk to my friends here. Can I talk to you? Sure. You're live right now. Wanda, right? Yes, I remember. Wanda, we spoke in East Chicago probably last year. And you're out here. We see a lot of people who are fighting what's going on in East Chicago with the lead and the arsenic, but you're also out here. Talk to me. How regular is this that there are protesters out here?
Well, they do this every 2 months, or as long as they organize it. Dr. Needleman will organize it, and she'll send us emails, and then we come out. We do come out.
And you're Latina?
Yes, yo soy Latina.
So what's striking to me is, like, it's almost like they're trying to hide it. They paint the buses with white paint so you can't see inside.
Right. And a lot of people in East Chicago didn't know that this was transpiring. So we're getting the word out that this is transpiring. And you know, it's not fair because they are tearing families apart in East Chicago, and we carry a lot of immigrants in Northwest Indiana.
And you know, it was striking to me, they're talking about they bring them in from Mexico. A lot of them go to California. They work almost like as slaves in a lot of these fields, and then they are forced to go back to a place they've met.
They're bringing them in from Chicago, and they're also bringing them in from other cities in Indiana, because O'Hare and Midway, well, you know, they're so trafficked up there in those airports, so they're deporting them out of here. So they come in on the buses from all different cities in Indiana and Chicago, and this is where they're leaving.
And you heard one person talking about that Trump, the Republicans, frankly, there's a lot of deportations under Obama too. They're successfully basically blaming the country's problems on undocumented immigrants, even though the undocumented immigrants, they didn't make the choice to come here, their parents did.
That's right. And the thing is that the students are working very hard in education, and they deserve the right, because they're not only working with education, they are working, and they are our future leaders, and they are working through the universities, and they're doing a fantastic job. And and their families are, the families are responding to them, and they are an example for their brothers and sisters. And so we need to support them, because they are our future leaders.
And you see a lot of critics say, oh, well, they're here illegally, so that case closed, they have to go back. Yet, how many illegal things go on in this country every day? The bankers.
Not just that, a lot of immigrants are in the process of fixing papers, They get caught up where they're falling through the holes because they're in the process of moving forward, and then all of a sudden, here they come, We have ICE in East Chicago, and, we have to be watching everything, and, it's not fair. It's not fair because the immigrants are very good, hard-working people, and they're trying to get their children through the schools, and our youth who are DACA and also Dreamers, they're doing an excellent job.
And quick change of topic. Part of why I'm here is to follow up on the lead crisis. It doesn't seem like a lot has changed in a year. It seems like they're still, kind of throwing filters at people. They haven't done thorough testing of the homes.
Well, the filters are only lasting 1 month. They told us 3 months. Those filters are only lasting 1 month. We are meeting with EDA and IDEM. We do have conference calls with them. They take our questions. We are now more friendly based.
With the EPA?
With the EPA and with IDEM, but still a lot of stuff is going on because Zone 1, okay? Our concern is how they're going to knock down those homes and take that dirt out of East Chicago, because it's airborne and it's contaminated. And we also have met with HUD also. So that's one of our main concerns. And we're not hearing anything. They're telling us that the water is safe, and then they tell us that from the service line to our homes, zones that are out of the zones, the contamination is there. So, like I mentioned before, how about the homes that are 50, 75, and 100 years old?
Like yours?
Yes, like mine. I finally got information where I can call Indianapolis, and I'm going to have them come out, the environmental department, to come out and check my ground.
And you're not even right in the Superfund site. You're out.
Not in the Superfund site, but I believe, I was born and raised in East Chicago, and I was an orphan, and I feel if I can give up on the kids of East Chicago, I'm giving up on my own. And I will never do that because I am a product of East Chicago.
And how do they say the water's fine if they're not testing the whole city?
Well, see, we went down to Indianapolis. They told us it was good. The city's telling us it's good. And then we go to IDM and they tell us it's good. And then they show us these, these PowerPoints and say it's from the service line to the inside of the home. So who do we believe?
Just like the EPA told me last August that there was no water contamination at all, and this was not a problem in Flint. 4 months later, they found lead in the water. So
right. So, we have different people. We have hygienists working with us now, and we have scientists working with us because everybody's coming up with different numbers. So we have have gotten our own people pro bono that are checking on this for us. So we continue, the community continues to work, you know, because we want to find out about our city and we want to find out the truth.
You know, I live on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They had a Legionnaires outbreak. It was aggressively handled, and it was pretty much put under control in 6 weeks. Whereas poor Latinos, poor black people, it's now a year and 3 months since the revelations came out about this, and there's still no medical coverage for people who have illnesses related to the lead. You're still begging for them to check the homes, all these things. What are your thoughts on the different treatment if you're poor?
You know, it's very sad because, you know, a lot of people had to move out of our area, you know, and they moved into other areas and they were not aware that they were moving into other zones that were contaminated also. So Zone 1, which was, West Calumet, they moved into Zones 2 and 3, which were contaminated. You know, they had no direction where to move. You know, they were moving them, they were saying moving them out to Chicago. And they didn't want to leave Chicago. You know, East Chicago, we have always been a home-based family city, you know. And so now we're trying to help these people in Zones 2 and 3, try to give them an apartment that is lead-free.
What's your sign say? NWI Resist, which is Northwest Indiana Resist. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much. It was nice seeing you again.
Absolutely. Thomas.
I want to get you to talk to Vince. Vince is a really important organizer
Vince.
in Northwest Indiana. And I really want, he's going to be an important point person for you.
Yeah. So one more organizer we're talking to here. Talking to Vince. That's okay. That's fine. So which organization are you with?
I work with the Michigan City Social Justice Group and also Politics, Art, Roots, and Culture, which is a community center we opened up in Michigan City, Indiana.
I ain't going to lie. He got me excited when he said, I believe in deportation for the bankers and the oligarchs, because that's my kind of talk. You know what's striking to me here is that they paint the buses white. It's almost like they know what they're doing is wrong, and they don't want you to see. And one person referenced, you know, they bring them down to Brownsville, Texas, and then they just push them over. It almost seems like the modern-day slave trade.
It does, and it's sick, and it's sad. And I think, you know, we get wrapped up sometimes too much in the political discourse. Sometimes we just have to step back and be like, look, there's human beings on that bus. There's a lot of the moderate folks that we're trying to canvass and knock on doors, and where we live in Michigan City, Indiana, we approach it from that angle. You know, if we hit them with the politics immediately, sometimes they go, you know, this, that, are they legal? Are they? Say, hey, look, these are people on the bus. They're human beings. They have family members. They have dreams. They have loved ones. And you're going to break apart those families. And you're going to destroy communities. These are people who play a significant role in their communities more often than not. And those are communities that are going to be destroyed. And then the same people are going to ask, you know, why is this person in jail? Why is this person unemployed? You know, all of the things that come with splitting apart those communities. And I don't know, man. I mean, it is sad. It's very sad. But I think a lot of us are beyond being sad, and I think a lot of us now are just angry and motivated and disciplined to be involved and to continue this work.
And, you know, what's striking to me is kind of this, it's kind of like a mixed bowl. You got Gary, which is like one of the epicenters of poverty and gentrification, and you kind of have, you know, Chicago didn't want to deal with the deportation, so they put them on here in Gary. It seems like it's an effort not just with undocumented immigrants, but just kind of like stomping on working people.
Sure. And as many of the speakers mentioned, I mean, in some ways we're essentially a colony of Chicago. You know, for a long time, a lot of industrial waste industries that have been built here in the region in Northwest Indiana because people in Chicago refuse to have those industries in their area. Same with dumping of toxic waste. Same with, say, shipping immigrants out of the country. These are things that the city of Chicago wouldn't stand in that city because you already have a culture of organizing and you already have enough progressives on the ground who would oppose it. Here, they look to take advantage of communities that are splintered because of deindustrialization and neoliberalism. You see places like Gary, Indiana, completely gutted and deindustrialized. Same where I live in Michigan City, Indiana. 1/3 of the city is black. Almost half of the population's living in poverty. Tons of huge, poor white population there as well. So we get dumped on a lot of what the elites in Chicago don't want to deal with, and a lot of what they know that their constituents wouldn't stand for. they give it to us here in Northwest Indiana.
And can you talk about, because a lot of people watching on TYT are always like, what can I do, even if they don't live here? You were talking about organizing breeds organizing.
Yes.
How could they get involved in their communities, whether it's on the documentation, deportation issue, or other things?
Well, there's a million existing organizations that they could join. Go out there, find them. You know, I'm patient with some folks, you know, people in our community who are really down and out in extreme poverty, but there's other folks who can find anything to buy on Amazon, but then they can't find an organization to join on Google. Find an organization in your area. If one doesn't exist, start an organization. But I think the thing to remember is that this is a long-term, lifelong endeavor. A lot of people get involved. You know, for instance, after Trump got elected, there were tons of groups that popped up. The mobilization was there, thousands of people at rallies and protests, airports, and so forth. But some of that energy has died off. And some of the people we met during that time, I think, were expecting too much too fast. You know, this is a long process, and I think people have to be dug in for the long term. And I think that's what we're trying to breed, is a culture of organizing and a culture of resistance. Not, hey, this is something you go do on the weekend, or hey, this is something you do maybe once every couple of months. But this is a sort of a lifestyle of being involved and standing up for your neighbors and knocking on doors and talking with people. That sort of deep organizing that we're trying to do, going door by door, ward by ward, precinct by precinct, and talking to each and every one of our neighbors until we knock on all of the 35,000 people's doors who live in Michigan City, Indiana. And those are the kind of organizing methods and tactics and strategies that I think we've gotten away from in the past. I think we've relied on social media a little too much. I think we've relied on just mobilizing the people who we can count on. Hey, like, I know Jordan's down, he's always going to show up. What about Jordan's family? What about your sisters, your brothers, your cousins? Do you have some friends maybe who are on the fence? You know, they're not full-time activists, but they're also not opposed to the kinds of values and politics that we're pushing. How do we get them involved? And how do we make this a regular thing and building broad coalitions for a region like this in Northwest Indiana? It's huge. I mean, a big portion of the region is segregated. You've got cities like Chesterton and Valpo that are 20 minutes away from where we're standing right now, 94% white, whereas Gary's 85% black. You know, those divisions and those boundaries have to be broken down if we want to be successful. So I would say it's probably the same for whoever's watching. You have to get out there, you have to talk to your community members, and you have to make this a regular part of your life.
Thanks, Ben.
Right on, man.
Appreciate it.
Nice talking with you.
And with that, we bid you adieu. We'll be going to do some other interviews here in East Chicago, and then we're on our way to Flint, Michigan, to follow up on the water crisis. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Peace.
I'm Joe Kahn. I'm the treasurer of the Green Party.